Hey everyone, welcome to Intellipaat's YouTube channel. In today's session, we will be learning about Azure Monitor.
So before we move on with our live session, please subscribe to our channel.
And also, if you want upcoming updates, please hit the bell icon and also leave a like if you enjoy our content.
Today's agenda will be, first of all, we'll see an overview of what Azure Monitor is. Then we'll learn how it works. Then we'll see what are insights in Azure Monitor. Then we'll see the various ways in which data can be visualized in Azure Monitor. We'll see the response and integration options. And finally, we'll have a hands-on session as to how we can use Azure Monitor. So let's get started. First of all, what is Azure Monitor? So when it comes to applications and services that are run on databases or then are run on clouds like Azure, it is vital that we have to monitor them frequently so that we can find out why it is not working as it was supposed to do. So that is where Azure Monitor comes. So Azure Monitor is a tool that collects and analyzes data about the various Azure resources and the infrastructure on which these resources are run. So it collects and analyzes data about the various resources and gives you insights on what is happening in the applications or services that are run on various Azure resources. It has a very interactive query language. It has an advanced analytical system with embedded machine learning capabilities, and this can also be incorporated into various tools used in DevOps, security information, IT services, etc. So monitoring what is happening in your cloud is very essential, and Azure Monitor is a tool which it unifies everything into one. So you can monitor the applications, you can monitor the operating system on which these applications are run, you can monitor your subscription, the subscription of your Azure resources, etc. So you can have all of this in one place, and finally all the monitored data can be visualized. So visualizing whatever we have monitored is essential, because when you are seeing it in front of you, you can have a clear idea as to what is happening, what should be done where something is not working as it was supposed to do. So that is what Azure Monitor is. So now we'll see how Azure Monitor works. So what happens is Azure Monitor collects data regarding the Azure resources as well as the infrastructure on which these resources are run. So what data it collects is the Azure Monitor collects metrics and logs. So all the data that Azure Monitor collects can be divided into either metrics or logs. So metrics and logs are collected, and from these metrics and logs, insights are provided, visualizing the data is happening, analysis can be done, and finally response and integration can be done. So what is metrics and logs? So as we already said, while monitoring data, Azure Monitor collects metrics and logs. So first of all, metrics. Metrics are numerical data that define properties like CPU usage, memory usage, network usage, etc. So these are time dependent data. So these are the data that shows what was happening at a certain point of time. And these data are stored in time series intervals so that we can plot graphs or tables or charts from this data and gain information about what was happening at certain point in time. So that is what metrics is. Then logs, talking about logs, logs are the event data. So what was happening in an OS. So when you see, if you go to Windows, there are Windows logs, or if there is Linux has logs. So that shows the state of the system, or what was happening during some application was running. So what kind of error happened. All these are stored in document format or in text format. So these are what logs are called. So Azure Monitor collects these kinds of metrics and logs. So we have already said that Azure Monitor collects metrics and logs. So what are these metrics and logs, or what? So these metrics and logs about what is collected. So we can see what data does it collect. So first of all, application monitoring data. So application monitoring data means this includes the information about performance and functionality of various applications on different platforms. So like if there is an application that runs on mobile devices that uses Azure services or that works on Azure resources, how the application is running, how much data it is taking, or where is it reading the data from, where is it writing. So you can get all this information, application monitoring data. You can get all this from application monitoring data. Then there is guest OS monitoring data. This contains information about the operating system on which the application is running, which can be aggregated into Azure Monitor from, as you already said, Windows event logs, performance counters, IIS logs, etc. So this is how like for example, how much CPU is being used in this server, or how much of the power is being used, what is the thermals of the system. So all this information can be found from the guest OS monitoring data. Then there are Azure monitoring resource data. So this includes data about the working of various Azure resources. So resource logs and metrics are used for monitoring these telemetry data, because Azure resources has in case what the Azure database is working, the virtual machines working. So it can have information about the Azure resources. Then data about the Azure subscription monitoring. So information about the management and operation of the subscription as well as the proper working of Azure. Like the health of the various resources, activity logs, etc. are collected in this way. Then there is tenant monitoring data. So this is data about Azure Active Directory which operates on a tenant level. So this contains the history of the sign-in activities and the audit trail of all the changes made, etc. And finally, it can also collect data from custom sources like any REST client using the data collector API. So this can be helpful when custom monitoring scenarios are presented to the users. So we have now seen what kind of data it collects. So every data it collects is either metrics and logs. So we have also seen what kind of metrics and logs are it collecting. So after the Azure Monitor collects the data, we can have insights about this data. So we'll see what are insights in Azure Monitor. So first of all, application insights. So application insight gives information about the performance, availability and usage of various web applications hosted in the cloud or on premises, which can be monitored using the application insights. So application insights takes the data about the performance of these applications and gives us insights about that. In container insight, this can monitor the performance of workloads that are deployed in the Kubernetes clusters hosted on the Azure Kubernetes service. Then there is VM Insight, Virtual Machine Insight. This can monitor the Azure virtual machine. The health and performance of Windows and Linux virtual machines can be analyzed and the interdependencies can be identified. So we get all these insights from various resources. Now we'll see how data is visualized. So in Azure Monitor, data is visualized in three ways. Either you can use dashboards. Dashboards can be used to combine different types of data together. So outputs of log queries and metric charts can be added to the dashboards, and this can be shared with other Azure users so that users can collaborate and find out what the problems are happening or not. Then there are workbooks. So visually rich, powerful data analysis can be prepared using workbooks that are present in Azure Monitor. So data from multiple sources can be combined in the unified interactive experience using workbooks. Then Power BI, which is a business analytics service, can be used to create visualization across a variety of data sources. It can be an effective tool in making data available to more people involved in the process. So dashboards, workbooks and Power BI can be used for visualizing this data. Then finally, what is the response and integration that Azure Monitor provides? So first of all, talking about the response, there is alerts. So alerts in Azure Monitor is it can alert about critical conditions that is happening, and we can start actions to solve these issues, or alerts can also automate certain issues. If something is happening in this way, we can automate in such a way that if something happens, this action needs to be taken. So we can set alerts to do something like that. Then there is autoscale. So autoscale, what happens is autoscale continuously monitors the resources and the load that load on our applications, and if it feels that certain applications need more resources, it can add more resources automatically, or it can also free up unused resources. So that's what autoscale does. Then there is integration and export. So for integration and export, Azure Monitor provides three ways: Azure Event Hubs, Logic Apps and API. Azure Event Hubs is an event ingestion and streaming platform. Any real-time analytics provider or batching or storage adapters can be used to transform and store data. So the data about the monitored resources can be transformed and stored using event hubs. Then there are logic apps, which is a tool that uses workflows to automate operations and business processes across multiple platforms and services. Then there are APIs. In addition to accessing created alerts, APIs are available to read and write metrics and logs to and from Azure Monitor. Alerts can also be configured and retrieved. So that's what the integration and export options. So finally, we've covered most of the theory part. Now we'll see how you can use Azure Monitor. Okay, now that we have seen how Azure Monitor works, we'll move to the conclusion. So overall, Microsoft Azure Monitor gives you a uniform platform for tracking and monitoring the performance of your apps and system, as well as the resources that they rely on. So constant monitoring of your apps and services is very vital, and Azure Monitor is a big help in that direction.
Just a quick info, guys. Intellipaat provides Microsoft Azure certification training in partnership with Microsoft, mentored by industry experts. The course link of which is given in the description below. Now, let's continue with the session.
So we have seen what Azure Monitor is in theory. So now we'll see how Azure Monitor works in real. So Azure Monitor is available separately as a service and also is baked into each and every resource that Azure gives. So if you want to use Azure Monitor, you can either go in and use it as a separate service, or you can access them from the various resources that we have created. So first of all, we'll see what it looks like as a service. So you can go and search for Monitor. Here you can see Monitor from the search results. So if I go and click it, I can open Azure Monitor. So we have already said that Monitor collects data in two types. So every data that Monitor collects can be divided into two types. That is, those are metrics and logs. So if I go here, I can see that I have the option to monitor and visualize metrics, query and analyze the logs, and set up alerts and actions. So we'll see about the alerts and actions in a bit. But right now we can see what metrics are. So if I go and click explore metrics, I'll have to select a resource for which the metrics are to be shown. So I'll select one that is already available. Oh, sorry, I cannot select a whole resource group. This is a resource group. I have to select the resource. So I'll select this resource and I'll give apply. So here, this is a metric chart. So this is as I already said, metrics is a type of data that is time dependent. So it is collected at certain intervals of time. So we can represent it in the form of a time series chart. So here I've chosen the scope, that is the resource that we have to measure, and also there are these different metrics available. So I can go and maybe see availability. So I can see that it was available. The availability was 100% almost every single time. So also I can go and check for the egress. So I can see the data about the egress for every single time for a different date. So for Wednesday 23, the egress was this much. So I can see the data about this. So this is what metrics is. Metrics collects time dependent data, and these can be represented in charts. So we can go and see ingress. So I can get the data about various ingress. Also I can go and see transactions. So I can get the data about that. So this is how metrics works. So that is what metrics is about. So metrics is a way of collecting data that is time dependent data, and Azure Monitor uses these metrics to visualizes the data in the form of charts. So then the talking about the visualization, we have already mentioned about dashboards and workbooks. So here we have the option to pin this metrics to a dashboard. I can pin it to a dashboard, or I can either pin it to an existing dashboard, or I can create a new dashboard. So if I do that, I'll have the metrics. So a person might be using multiple resources in a particular resource group, or multiple resource groups itself. So if he wants to analyze all the information about the various resources that he is using, he can maybe create a resource group that is reserved only for the dashboards. And when you go into that dashboard, you can have the metrics of about all the resources that he is using. So that is how dashboards visualize metrics. So if I go back to monitor again, so that's what metrics are all about. So then there are logs. So if I go and find out about logs, so unlike metrics, metrics are kind of free in a way that you don't have to configure anything, or you don't have to pay any extra for it. Metrics are already there in the resource that you're using, but logs are not like that. So if I go here, I can see logs. So what happens is there is a query language known as KQL. This language is used to query the logs from the various services that various resources that we are using. So KQL is very similar to SQL, but it's different in a way that the actions are done in a pipeline manner. So it's fairly simple to learn it, and this can be used for querying the logs. So as you already said, log just shows the state of the application, like what are the changes that have been made, what is happening in. So all this information are stored in logs. So this KQL language can be used to query the logs. But for right now, we don't have any data there. That's why we cannot demo how the KQL language works or not. But I think it's self-explanatory. So that's what logs are about. Then, we have seen now what are metrics and logs. Then there are the alerts that we have been talking about. So we have also already said Monitor offers different ways for response and integration. One of them was alerts. So if you go and create alert, this is what an alert rule is. So alert rule is what happens is when the monitor is always continuously monitoring your services and applications. And if monitor encounters a certain situation, we can first of all we can define the scope, that is the resource that is being monitored, and then we can give the condition. So the condition is when something happens in such a way. So if some metric or some data reaches this point, what are the actions that needs to be taken? We can give the actions that needs to be taken. We can give set the actions to maybe send an email or alert us, or maybe do something else. So these all can be done using alert rules. So that is a way of responding to the analyzed monitored data, the data that has been monitored by Azure Monitor. We can after analyzing the data, can send us alerts and can take actions based on these alerts. So that's what basically Azure Monitor is. Azure Monitor can take in data in the form of metrics and logs and give us alerts. So this is how Monitor looks as an independent service. But if we go to different resources that we have created, so I can maybe go into this resource. If I go there, in the main resource page, so this belongs to the resource group Cloud Shield Storage Central India. If I go in there, I can see that all these in the left side of the panel, there is all this information about this resource. But if I go into monitoring, I can see there are metrics here again. So if I go into metrics, it's the same metrics that we have seen in Azure Monitor as a standalone service. So what happens is Monitor is baked into every resource that we are using in Azure. So we can go into each of the resource and see the real-time metrics that's happening. So if I go and click on availability, I can see availability. If I click on ingress, I can see the ingress, details about the ingress. I can see about the transactions. All this can be seen from here. So Azure, we are not actually telling Azure to collect data from this time, from this time. So we are not defining anything. Azure does this all automatically. That's the beauty of Azure Monitor. You don't have to define something. Azure does it all for us. Similarly, there are logs also, but as you already said, logs does not have any data right now, but so we cannot see how logs are displayed. But it's actually very simple. If you have a sample data here, you can use the query language that is KQL to, it's fairly similar to SQL. You can select select start from table, where this condition, order by, all those things very similar to SQL, but it's visualized in a different way. So that's it about KQL. So you can use KQL to see the logs, and then there are alerts. In every resource there are these alerts. So I can maybe give metric alerts. So what happens, I can give alerts to when a metric is reaching a particular condition. So all those can be done from here. So that's it about Azure Monitor, I think.
Just a quick info, guys. Intellipaat provides Microsoft Azure certification training in partnership with Microsoft, mentored by industry experts. The course link of which is given in the description below.
So guys, we have come to the end of our session. I hope you all enjoyed it. For any questions that you have related to coding, you can mention it in the comment sections below.
So thank you so much for attending this session and meet you in another session.